Shalom Aleichem, everybody. It's Erev Shabbos, Parshat Pinchas, and I wanted to share with you a brief idea. We have in the Parsha two very striking stories where there's a halacha that's unknown to Moshe Rabbeinu, and in one case, Bnot Tzelafchad, the daughters of Tzlafchad, the halacha is revealed through them, and in the other case, Pinchas, and a halacha is revealed through him. So it's very striking. The Torah tells us that the Bnot Tzelafchad, the daughters of Tzlafchad, come to Moshe and they say, why is it that our father has died, and why don't we, the girls, the daughters, have a nachala in Eretz Yisrael? And the Medrash very, very beautifully really and praises, the Chazal praise the women, the daughters of Tzlafchad, in a very striking way. And the Medrash tells us that the act of Bnot Tzelafchad is Gedula lahen u'Gedula la'avi, and it's praiseworthy to them and it's praiseworthy to their father. After all, what was so praiseworthy? So again, you have to look at everything in the context in which things arose. And when it comes to this context, in general, the Medrash tells us that the women were on a much higher level than the men. Also, Hador hayu hanoshim goldros masha anoshim portzim. The men would have breaches, they would breach, they would not be performing ideally, and the women would create fences, would cure, would solve the problems that the men were creating. Where do you find this? So first of all, the men, they contributed their jewels, their valuables for the Egel HaZahav, and we find not so when it comes to the women. The women would go ahead and be critical, and they would not go ahead and do so. And when it comes to So the women, again, they did not involve themselves in the Egel HaZahav. The men did. When it comes to the Meraglim, Chazal tell us that the men complained about going into Eretz Yisrael. They were interested in sending spies. The Aleihem Nigzera Gzera, and the punishment was on the men. Aval Hanoshim, the Noshim Lo Hayu Imam Be'etza, they were not with them in this plan, and therefore were told the entire generation, Ki Amar Hashem Lahem Mos Yumasu Bamidbar V'lo Nosar Mehem Ish, and not one single male member other than Kaleb ben Yefuna and Yoshua was saved. And the Chazal understand Ish V'lo Isha, the women were not participatory in the Ched HaMeraglim. Aval Hanoshim, the women on the other hand, Karvu Levakesh Nachla Ba'aretz, where the men were shirking from the opportunity and the schus of going into Eretz Yisrael. The women had a certain cleaving, a dveikus to the land. They sought it out, and that's why we are told, the Medrash says, that there's a juxtaposition between the story of Bnot Tzelafchad, wanting a nachla, wanting a piece of Eretz Yisrael, and the death of Bnei Yisrael, the males of Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar. And therefore you find that the women were godru, they cured the pirza, the breach that was created by the men. And that's the unique schus, in a very quiet way, in a subtle way. You might think this whole story of Bnot Tzelafchad is just, hey, they want some real estate, they're looking for an inheritance. No, it's much more profound. It's really expressing their chibas haaretz, and therefore this halacha of ha'avaras nachla, that the nachla will go to the daughters, that is given through the daughters of Tzlafchad, because in their quiet, sanua way, they went ahead and revealed a certain unique chibas haaretz which permeates the entire story of the Jews in the Midbar, where it's the women who are actually curing the breaches that were done by the men. You find also when it comes to Pinchas. So there's a very striking pasuk in the beginning of the parsha, and a very famous Rashi. But the pasuk opens up in the beginning of our parsha, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, Heishev es chamasim al b'nei Yisrael bekanoas kinasi b'tocham, velo kilisi es b'nei Yisrael b'kinasi. And Rashi is bothered, the Medrash is bothered. Why does it have to tell us the lineage of Pinchas all the way back to Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen? Why does it have to go back to his grandfather ben Aaron HaKohen? And the Rashi cites the Medrash is that there were Jews who were critical of the behavior of Pinchas. Hayushvatim mevazim osa. They said, what are you doing? You're a violent person, a zealot. What are you doing? And they called him the grandson of Shepitem Avi Imo Agolim. His maternal grandfather was involved in Avodah Zarah, referring to Yisra. So this behavior of his, this zealous behavior, this anger that he has, and Rav Asher Weiss points out that there's a connection, of course, between Avodah Zarah and Kas. The anger, the zealousness that he has is a function of his origins. His grandfather is an Ovid Avodah Zarah. So the pasuk wants to tell us, no, you have Pinchas all wrong. his grandfather, this behavior is coming from his grandfather, but not from the grandfather, the Oved Avodah Zarah, but rather his grandfather, Aaron HaKohen. And Aaron was the Rodef Shalom. He was running after Shalom. And sometimes, even an act of kanos, even an act of zealotry, can go ahead and come through a place of ava. Rav Asher Weiss points out in his sichos on the parsha that Pinchas' act over here, which looks like a violent act, a murderous act, an act of anger, was not coming from that place at all. It was coming from a tremendous love of the Jewish people. But sometimes love of your fellow man, love of the Jewish people, requires action. So in two very, very different ways, and we learn the halacha from Pinchas of Habol Aramis Kanoim Pogimbo, we learn a new halacha which Moshe was not aware of. So you have these two stories where a halacha is revealed, and the Bnot Tzelafchad in their quiet way were going ahead and being Goder Pirza. They were curing a breach in Klal Yisrael through being those stalwarts, where the men were weak and the men were making mistakes in the midbar, did not have that sense of chibas haaretz. The women stepped forward. The women showed their love in desiring this place in Eretz Yisrael. And in the same way, in a bit more of an aggressive way, in a bit way that looks like somewhat violent, but also coming from a point of love, from a point of tremendous ava. And of course, that is why, yes, it's Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. This is coming from a place of Rodef Shalom, from Avas Yisrael, to cure a breach. Sometimes more subtly, sometimes a little more aggressively. We always have these challenges as we face. Sometimes things go around in the society around us. Sometimes we have to work under the scenes quietly. Sometimes we have to be a little more public. The models of Pinchas and the models of Bnot Tzelafchad, and thereby revealing new halachos of standing up to that which is wrong, Bnot Tzelafchad in their way and Pinchas in his.